For decades, women's cricket was ignored. But something has changed, and most people haven't noticed it yet. From struggling to find sponsors and depending on well wishers to fund their training and progress just over a couple of decades ago, to now commanding astronomical sums for ads and promotions, the sport and its stakeholders have come a long way. However, this isn't the first time people have spoken about the sport breaking through into the mainstream. And for those who assume that this is to do with just India's 2025 World Cup win, the truth couldn't be far from it. While the cricketing giant lifting their maiden trophy last year did act as a catalyst, it's only yet another momentous drop in the sea of change we witnessed over the last decade or so. Starting from the inaugural WBBL and KSL in 2015-16, the 2017 World Cup final, the post-IPL exhibition games that began in 2018, the historic audience at MCG in 2020, and of course, the massive push that came through the commencement of the WPL in 2023. The seeds for growth were sown before that, with a 200% rise in female participation being seen amongst all ICC-affiliated nations between 2013 and 2018, with women now comprising nearly 10% of all registered cricketers. Let's begin with the global leagues. Each of cricket's big three now hosts a marquee women's league, and the sport couldn't be at a better place to showcase what their players have to offer. In a way, India not being the strongest team in the world has worked in their favour. Unlike their male counterparts, Indian female cricketers are granted NOCs to take part in overseas leagues, thus making these tournaments far more relevant to the Indian audience and giving the players a much needed opportunity to upskill. Given the Indian subcontinent's scale and appetite for cricket in general, the region taking up women's cricket has also helped increase viewership of the other two leagues. WBBL 10 in 2024 became the most watched season in the history of the tournament, while TV audiences for the 2025 season of the Women's 100 saw a 40% increase year on year. With Saudi Arabia also entering the sport by tying up with Fairplay, a new franchise league is set to begin later in the year in the Middle Eastern region. Another reason for a significant spike in interest for the sport has been its admission to the Olympics. Several countries across geographies that weren't traditionally open to cricket have now strategically begun investing in women's cricket, as they see a real possibility to lift up their rankings in a shorter span compared to men's cricket. Also, it's lent a sense of credibility to the sport like never before, with the boards now receiving access to larger pools of capital through their respective Olympic committees. In 2020, Brazil became the only ICC member at the time with centrally contracted women, but no contracted men, breaking the sports conventions in the best manner possible through their actions. Since then, Germany's club scene has grown, Thailand have kept climbing, and the USA now has Olympic momentum on their side. And the upcoming T20 World Cup will host 12 nations, the highest ever, thanks to which Netherlands will now be making the T20 World Cup debut later this year. These stories underline the possibilities of the women's game, especially in non-traditional cricket countries. Of course, we all talk about the sport and how it's expanded to newer countries, but we cannot forget the most important stakeholder, us viewers. While talking about the success that was the 2025 Women's ODI World Cup, JioHotstar revealed that the Summit Clash attracted a staggering 185 million users to their app, equaling the viewership of the ICC Men's T20 World Cup final in 2024. The digital reach of 446 million in India was the highest ever for the Women's ICC tournament and was bigger than the combined total of the last three events. Following India's victory, the ticket purchases for this summer's Women's T20 World Cup in England also witnessed a surge. Overall sales for the tournament increased 171% compared to the previous week, with a 265% uptick in India fixtures. On a slightly adjacent note, WPL viewership has also gone up from 155 million in the inaugural season to 325 million by season 3. And Nadine de Klerk's final over pyrotechnics in this season's opener generated over 50 million views on JioHotstar. The increased viewership has also convinced brands to move past traditional mediums and invest money here to generate better engagement and a greater ROI. This, in turn, has led to an increased revenue in women's sport, which has been growing at a pace never seen before in the last few years. This is no longer limited to just women's cricket. Women's sport viewership has seen a sharp rise in the recent past, and the numbers are there for everyone to see when it comes to the money they've made. Revenue from American women's sports grew 4 times faster than the revenue growth from men's sports between 2022 and 2024. If that did not surprise you enough, the total revenue for US women's sports surpassed $1 billion for the first time in 2024 and is projected to hit over $3 billion globally in 2026. By 2030, analysts forecast at least a 250% increase in US revenues compared to 2024. Back to cricket, ICC confirmed investments over INR 125 crores for the year 2025, while WPL locked in sponsors for a cumulative package of INR 48 crores for the current auction cycle. The tournament's media rights fetched INR 951 crores or USD 116 million, making it the second most expensive women's league behind the women's NBA. Let's take a look at the tickets sold in the WPL. Matches that were free to attend in the first edition have now come with a price tag, albeit a small one. Factoring the price sensitivity of an Indian consumer, this alone is a signal of evolution for both the tournament and its viewers. So, why now? Why is women's growth growing at this particular moment? 1. Heroes. With the sport being covered like never before, young boys and girls have found a greater pool of sports stars to choose their heroes from. And coming from our part of the world, the odds of our women cricketers having inspirational paths to success is far greater than that of our men. Of course, that does not mean that our men aren't working hard enough. It just means that such stories have a greater shot at capturing the youth's imagination. Boards have also taken cognizance of this growth and have aided it with some important steps, such as pay parity being introduced to ensure that the best in the world are financially secure. In a society where parents' decision is considered final, moves like these have warmed them up to the realization that sport is no longer just a hobby to be fostered, but a passion to be kindled. Another reason that Sarah Levin mentions in her piece, and I couldn't agree more with, is the role of digital media. A lot of female athletes also double up as creators, and by virtue, role models. Stars like Jemima Rodriguez, Katie Ledecky, and Simone Biles use platforms ranging from Instagram to TikTok and give fans unfiltered access to their journeys, perspectives, and off-court passions. But wait, don't our men do that as well? Unfortunately, that's where the fact that men's cricket evolved a lot more faster than women's cricket has probably been to their own detriment, because they've become a lot more PR trained, the answers have become a lot more vanilla, and you only see a certain whitewashed image of what they want to show you. And that's where female athletes resonate across lifestyle categories: fashion, wellness, and even mental health advocacy. Their presence is holistic and human, and that matters in an era where authenticity drives engagement. Fans no longer just crave the sport. They want to be associated with the stories that come with it. And where else will you find that but in the undernourished and fast-growing annals of women's cricket? Women's cricket is not catching up anymore. It's building its own identity. And keeping that in mind, I'm starting this channel to cover the sport we all love the way it should be. This is Akshay Kumar Swamy signing off from Women's Cricket Central. And if you enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel. Comment what your thoughts are on the way forward for the sport and how do you see it panning out in the future. Until then, it's a goodbye from me.